Very good afternoon and welcome to all. As we all know, we are meeting here for virtual launch and book discussion on transition and transformations in academic libraries and higher education. So whatever the higher education scenario and higher learning scenario has been affected, library services are also part of it. So the way things have been affected, the education, the learning process and library services, how they are really collaborated and intertwined for each other. So all the issues are here before the educators and library professionals as well. We have with us Professor Ramesh Kaur, Dean HOD Kalanidhi Division IGNCA, and Dr. Tara Murray Grove, very senior professionals, Goswami sir, Dr. P.R. Goswami, Dr. Sheetal Sharma, Aditya Tripathi ji, Dr. Shantanu Ganguly, Dr. P.K. Jain, Suresh Shange ji, Dr. Neelam Thapa, and Dr. Nurdin as well with us. So to begin with the program, now I request Professor Ramesh Gaur sir for his inaugural address. Over to Gaur sir.
Thank you, Shiva. Let me first extend a very hearty welcome to all of you in this book launch, which has been organized virtually by Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts. Uh, on behalf of Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts and also on behalf of editors of the book, it is our extreme pleasure to welcome Dr. Tara Murray Grove, chief guest of today's program. So Tara, we are extremely honored to have you in this program and welcome you to this program, as well as just few words of introduction about IGNCA, which is a national center for preservation of Indian cultural heritage. And this program, we have a program called IGNCA Book Circuit. Under that, we organize regular book discussion and book launch programs on different subjects. So now it's extremely, I'm honored being a professional that today we are launching and discussing a book on the library science subject. Dr. Shiva Kanodia, and many of the contributors in that book who have extremely having enriching experience in this particular book are also present. So I extend a very hearty welcome to all of you. Let me first congratulate the editors and request all of you to give them big hand and launch the book. I have a copy. I just show you all. So I think now you can see. Here is the book. So congratulations, Shiva and Dr. Jain for this wonderful work, and also to all the authors.
Thank you, sir.
For bringing out such a wonderful book. It is very, very well appreciated efforts of the editors. And also they have covered the various aspects of the library science dealing with the current pandemic. Like we all know we are passing through such a painful time and very critical time when it is we are forced to live in the rooms and not having libraries are closed and very few libraries are open. In this critical time, how users are being served, how users are to be provided information. So this is a challenging time for both libraries as well as the teachers and researcher to come together to make things happening in this pandemic situation. So in this context, having I have not gone through the entire opportunity right forward for this book, but I'm really sorry I'm not able to go through the book. So it is best that authors and the editors will let us know more about the book during the course of discussion. And one more thing, which is I want to highlight here in this case of this book, that all the aspects which talks about e-learning or basically talking about the new initiative in terms of MOOCs and Moodles, that is something well connected with our new education policy. Because if you talk about our in India, a new education policy 2020, it talks about art integrated learning, it talks about sport integrated learning, it talks about enhancing experiential learning. So learning is a key focus, and also in the context of Internet of Things, IoT. When we talk about Industry 4.0, we talk about Education 4.0. That learning has become a central focus, and that's why when I talk to my library colleagues, I say that little beyond library science, we have to incorporate learning science into the library science as well, because it may be blended learning. It may be now libraries are no more silent zone, so you have to really think of uh, having the group discussions and various kind of learning spaces, because learning spaces have become more important than just as a reading room, because libraries are more of a learning resource center, and librarian as a facilitator of learning has a very critical or a very important role to play. So in this context, I'm sure the papers in this book are going to be very useful for the both teachers as well as librarians to know the new dimensions and new areas where they can learn and they can implement in their libraries and enhancing learning amongst the users. So I will not take much time because I want to hear more than speaking, because I don't know more about books. I want to listen everybody to start from the editors and all the authors, and particularly I'm very excited to listen Tara, because this is the first time we are meeting each other virtually. So I'm very keen and very excited to listen you, Tara. And once again, I welcome all the editors, authors, particularly the chief guest of today's program, Dr. Tara Murray Grove. So, Tara, thank you very much. And now over to Shiva to
Thank you,
move
sir, for
ahead
your
in the
kind
program.
words. Yes, sir. Before I invite Dr. Tara, I would like to introduce about her, though she does not need any introduction. She is President, Special Libraries Association, SLA, USA. She is the librarian for Germanic and Slavic languages and literatures at Penn State. She served as the Director of Information Services and librarian for the American Philatelic Research Library in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. We welcome you, Dr. Tara Murray Grove. Over to you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Dr. Shiva. And it's so good to see everyone. I'm very honored to be here and to be part of the virtual book launch and to represent the Special Libraries Association. I just want to say a few words about SLA for any of you who might know our association. It is an international association for specialized librarians, information professionals, and our industry partners. So if you manage, curate, preserve, analyze, etc., in any way work with information and data, then SLA is an association for you. We have a very active SLA Asia community, which has been organizing a wonderful webinar series. I think the first one for 2021 earlier this week, and it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And Dr. PK Jain serves with me on the SLA board of directors. So if you're not familiar with SLA, I invite you to go to sla.org and learn more about us and what we do. And one of the reasons that I am an SLA member and have been for a long time is that SLA gives me the opportunity to meet and librarians and information professionals all over the world. And I was very honored to contribute a prologue to this exciting new book. I hope that I won't take up too much of your time because, like Dr. Ramesh Gaur said, I'm very excited to hear from the editors and from the authors to this book today. But as I wrote in that prologue, this book demonstrates that throughout the current crisis and in the years preceding it, universities have remained committed to their educational missions, continue to fill their foundational purpose. The chapters contained within this book provide a record of the higher education response to COVID-19. They also chart a course for the continued evolution of higher education. And I think that's what's exciting about a book like this is that we're not just reflecting back on the past year and how difficult it has been for all of us, but looking forward to the future and what can we bring out of this to make our collective future better. for libraries, for higher ed, and for society at large. It was just over a year ago that the COVID-19 pandemic was beginning to affect every aspect of our lives. Like many of you, I've been working from home for just over a year now. In academia, last year, universities closed campus classrooms, study spaces, laboratories, and library buildings. This prompted a dramatic shift in the delivery of instruction and library services at higher education institutions. As we've seen, each institution has responded to the crisis in its own unique way, depending on the local needs, priorities, and resources. But all institutions have endeavored to continue the vital functions of teaching, learning, research, and cultural preservation. And almost immediately, institutions began to share information through white papers, virtual conferences, and professional associations. SLA, for example, created a task force on reopening specialized libraries to gather existing research and best practices on how to safely and effectively reopen or partially reopen library spaces and provide guidance to library practitioners. When the more immediate crisis fades and emergency measures end, changes that were made abruptly in response to the crisis will become part of the ongoing transformation in higher education. And the chapters in this book reference the COVID-19 crisis, but the topics they address were equally important before the pandemic and will be important as we navigate our way out of this pandemic. None of the issues addressed in this book is new during this pandemic period. What is new is the perspective that this crisis has provided for our services. It's allowing us to let go of things that no longer serve us and to focus on new ways of moving forward. So without further ado, again, I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm grateful for daylight savings time, which means that it is my time instead of just after 6 a.m. So I'm a little more awake for you all. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing from the contributors to this book. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of this book launch.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tara. We are really grateful to have you with us. And the way you encompassed the prologue for the book is really very beautiful and inspiring for all of us. Now I request our first speaker, Honorable Dr. P.R. Goswami, former Director, Library and Information Services, IGNCA, for his views and kind words. Over to you, Goswami, sir.
Thank you, Siva, for for the introduction. And it is an opportunity, great opportunity for me to be invited by my past immediate employer, IGNCA. And because I have worked in many organizations, including Ministry of Culture, Indian Council of Social Science Research, Faculty of Management Studies, etc., etc. So actually, I have not read the papers which have been included in this volume. So I will try to concentrate on my paper, which is the first paper, I believe, in the volume, and it is quite a long paper, approximately 8,000 words. And it is on embedded librarianship, a concept which I first heard when I attended this IFLA conference at South Africa, and Durban, South Africa. And I was told that embedded librarianship is a new concept, and I did not know that it exists in India. Then I came back and started reading something. Then I have come to know the embedded librarianship is nothing but how you associate yourself as a librarian with the user's community. How best this can be done in the current situation. And embedded librarianship, because I have worked for 15 years in the Delhi University as the librarian of the Faculty of Management Studies, which was adjacent to a great institution, Delhi School of Economics, which had a very great library that is known as Ratan Tata Library. So I have seen those libraries working when there was no ICT, so no computer. It was all manual sort of operations. But in those days also, the librarian of some of the best departments and the institutes who come under Delhi University provided very high quality service, because They tried to understand their clientele, number one. They tried to associate with the work being done in the university, the research project, number two. Number three, the faculty. For instance, the faculty of Delhi School of Economics, which constituted sociology, economics, and geography mainly, they were highly concerned about the library development, and they also got a grant of rupees 5 crore from the Ministry of Finance to develop the library. And I think in the whole history of the library science in India, in the whole, there's only one book written by the students and the faculty of Delhi School of Economics of the library experience, which is very rare to find. The book is called Reflections on Delhi School of Economics. It was edited by a very prominent, now he's an economist in USA, most probably in some prominent Ivy League university. He was Mr. Dilip Mukhopadhyay. And there was another editor, there were two editors. And this was the sign that the faculty, the students, the library staff, they used to interact very, very closely to develop the library. So this was an embeddedness. Then what I have done is I have written that good libraries are needed to maintain high quality education standard, because that is high quality education standard supports library support. So it is a relationship depending, I say one depends on another. Similarly, the professionals can come closer to their academic users by developing expertise, the use of the several tools and techniques. Now the situation has changed. Now it is all ICT based application. And now there is big data, now there is data analytics. Now there are a lot of things are coming, the new machine learning and special softwares have been developed to record the experience of the students, their learning experience. That is called learning analytics. And this has highly impacted the library scenario these days. But here I have given an example, very brief example of what is document analysis. Document analysis is not book analysis or periodical, the content analysis of the periodicals. This is document analysis is particularly the subject in which you see a particular document which is not easily available through the channel and try to understand how this can be useful to the researcher and bring it to the notice of the researchers. So because I was searching some material for my book, next book, the Gazette of India was the source which I explored very expensively, which is a very unusual source. I don't know how many librarians have ever read any Gazette notification, except those which are appearing in the newspaper. Ministry of Highway is acquiring land. I'm not talking about those notifications and notifications of substance. So I have given two examples. One example is the first announcement for the civil service examination in the independent India, which came out in 1952. Another example, which is very important for those who have studied in Delhi University, which is going to celebrate its centenary next year, is the establishment, the bill to legislation, which was brought to the notice of the British government to establish and to how to Delhi University is to run. So there are a lot of controversy. Someone said there is some dissident group and they put objections. No, there should not be the clause. So these are the visual historical documents which I have discussed to bring to the notice of the librarians that these are also important from the viewpoint of a reference librarian to study and to understand. But what happens these days, if I am mistaken, I do not know. What I have read the very important paper by the librarian of the IIM Bengaluru, that most of the time the librarians are busy negotiating the license agreement with the vendors who provide the database, electronic databases, and they have very little time to do other works. I do not know whether this is true or not, but somewhat it may be true. The digital collection digital collection as such is blurring the visibility of the content and structure of the real collection. Previously, what happened, if you go to the shelf, you could see one book and related books just right or your left. But here it is not happening because you have to search a periodical article from the contents. You have to select the content, see. Of course, in the books, the electronic books are now not coming that way. A limited number of electronic books are available. So this is what they're doing is the librarians are have lesser exposure to the print or non-print material in terms of their content and structure. One thing I want to highlight here, that Delhi University had a library called Science Library. And there was one lady librarian who was very efficient. And whenever I have spoken to some of the teachers and the scholars, some of who are my friends, because I lived in the Jubilee Hall, which is very prominent Delhi University hostel. So many of the faculty members are from that hall. They used to say, this lady remembers all the periodicals and she does not tell us to refer to any directory or any catalog. So this is a remarkable quality, and he knows which of the volumes are missing from the shelf. But seeing the current scenario, I don't want to name the name of the library. I went to a library in Delhi. It's a very prominent library. Asked the librarian, do you get the technological forecasting and social change? He just, after some time, he said, no, I have to check because we are getting a database. It is included or not, I do not know. And so this is I think it is not immediately, the answer was not immediately coming. So this is some limitation of the digital resources, which I want to highlight. And now the good literature in the field of educational effectiveness are plenty. You know it very well. But if you see, the evaluation of academic libraries has not received enough attention from our academicians. This has been highlighted by the librarian of IIM Ahmedabad, who is no more. He expired during the COVID. He said a very important thing. For the purpose of the ranking of the academic libraries institutions, they collect library data. But they do not try to interpret what is the use factor of the library. That remains hidden. So in a way, you can say that the library, you can say the effectiveness of a library as a very vibrant organization, the extent to which it is now used, that thing is taken in the background. Now, one thing is, I think you all agree that today nobody is doing classification or cataloging or direct reference service because there are so many tools and techniques. You can get the rate of DB from some database. You can use that, what is called OCLC, and get the catalog records. So your involvement in the traditional library activity is less. So I can assume, because I am not doing the librarianship for the past, you can say 15, 20 years, when I left the Delhi University, after that I was not directly associated with the functioning of a library. I can have time to devote, they have enough time to devote their attention to understanding the library, understanding the users, understanding their responsibility, their projects, etc., etc. So that in that way, I can see that the present librarians have a greater opportunity to embed or to establish very close relations with the client base. But there is one limitation which I have seen in Delhi University. Academicians, particularly the bureaucrats, have a very limited view of the librarianship. So they don't think the librarian can help them in a very scholarly manner. They don't believe in this thing. So there is still I think there is a gap in the interaction between a librarian and the higher academic staff of the university. just somebody was discussing about the sociology department of Delhi University, sociology as a subject, and one teacher from the JNU was saying this is from the sociology, and sociology and economics. These two were the subjects, Delhi School of Economics, which were very highly rated. And they were the people who set up this library, and every user coming from abroad, coming from others, they always praised the periodical collection and the book collection of Delhi School of Economics, because they knew that the teachers of these departments are very well grounded. When grounded, are very well versed in the collection, they took a lot of interest. And what happened in the faculty was very different. Here there was chairman from the finance department, and whenever there is a book selection meeting, he tried to select the 80% books from the finance. So only 20% was left for the marketing, or you can say the strategic management or the human resource development. So there was a lopsided selection of books. Whereas if you are a good librarian and you have a very good relation with the faculty, you have every chance of developing a very balanced and very good collection of books in the library. And that also happens in the case of embedded librarianship. Now, I don't want to spend much time because I have limited note of my paper. I don't have a print version also. So what I want to say here, that for a librarian these days and for research I am saying because Professor Tripathi is also present here, and many other who are associated with the LIS research. What is happening today is there are very good statistical tools, and there is a very dominating culture of questionnaire-based survey. Questionnaire-based survey supported by very powerful statistical tools can produce very glossy, very attractive statistical tables, charts, graphs, etc. So it is very easy to influence, to impress an examiner. Though that type of research add to the knowledge much, because they are all stagnant subjects like what is the attitudinal factor regarding the use of electronic resources, how many higher grade teachers have come to the library, what is the percentage, how many teachers are coming regularly, daily or monthly. So these are not the parameters which are normally judged in a good academic library. I believe they should try to influence, they should try to do research in the field of sources of information which are unfriendly, which are esoteric, which need to be analyzed and presented in a manner which can be absorbed, understood, and appreciated by the library users. So I had given an example of Gazette of India. Similarly, I would like to say that there's one gentleman, his name, he is from JNU. He was from JNU. He's a professor. He passed out from JNU, Venkata Chalapati. He has written a book, Tamil, a biography. So I was very interested. I read the review of that book and found that he had given the entire background of the Tamil as a language and how the Tamil literature has developed. Similarly, recently, there is one linguistics professor. She has written about the Linguistic Survey of India. This is a very important source of information. What is the structure, how it developed, what is his research value, etc., etc. My question is, why you cannot assign a subject like this to your library science students? Even the history of encyclopedia. I was just reading an article. The Encyclopedia Britannica has developed, which our first edition was published in 1771. And now the print edition is gone. There is no print edition of Britannica. And how it has developed the knowledge, how it was criticized at that time in the late 18th century by the scholars that it is dividing scholarship. The people are become alphabet oriented in terms of arranging the contents, arranging the universe of knowledge. You are following which is not a scholarly order. which is an arbitrary order. So it is dividing scholarship in a different way. So these are the subject I believe the library science teachers and the guides of library science research should try to develop, should try to devote in that. And this is in brief my presentation about my paper. It is a long paper. So if you want to read, I can send you the soft copy. But these days the people have very less time. So I believe those who has the print version of the book, they'll read it, and if they have any question, they can send me a mail. I'll be very pleased to answer those questions. Thank you very much. Dr. Siva Kanujya Shukla.
Thank you, sir. Before we invite our next speaker, I would like to share, sir has more than 40 years of experience in our library science professional, and he has been associated with organizations of national repute. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Now I request Dr. Sheetal Sharma, a sweet friend of mine from JNU. Before she starts, I would like to share a few things about her. That she is at the Center for European Studies, School of International Studies, JNU, New Delhi.
Thank you so much, Shiva, for inviting me to talk about the paper that I have written for your volume. First of all, my congratulations to the editors of the volume, and congratulations to all the authors that such a wonderful work has come out. Good evening, everyone, and good morning to Tara, particularly because you are on the other side of the world. And I'm so happy to be connected to, a set of people, those who have been contributing so much to the academics. And I agree with Goswami, sir, when he said that when we talk about Delhi School of Economics, two subjects particularly stand out, very important and significant subjects where we have actually always run for, kahin se resource mil jaye, kahin se book mil jaye, kahin se, the kind of things, the readings that we were looking for when I was a student of JNU, and before that being Delhi University student. Now, two things about the paper. One is I'll talk generally about the role of librarian, which I really want to highlight in this gathering. And I think God has given me this, some of you. Otherwise, I have a long list of people, those who have helped us in collection of data and resources throughout our academic endeavor. But I would give you a kind of metaphor in which the role of librarians and the people, those who manage such vast amount, ocean of data. If you own a car, I would say if academics is like a car or an automobile, library is the fuel that actually runs it. Otherwise, without these resources, we just cannot imagine that how we are going to develop on research, understand what has been, locate ourselves in this map. And as a role of librarian, I would say that if you can recall Mahabharata, and during Mahabharata, Arjun says, Arjun goes to Krishna and says, you become my, guide. And then he says कि आप सारे मार्ग जानते हैं, आप सारी दिशाएं जानते हैं, और आप हैं जिनके हाथों में मैं अपने आप को सौंप कर, I would feel so free that I will not be lost into this wide, the Kurukshetra that he wants to save. No, it has not just been fought thousands of years ago. The battle is still on. All of you are playing role of a Krishna and guiding Arjunas in terms of locating them what they actually need. And whenever students may feel, and I also experience this as a teacher now, whenever students may feel, hum to ye dekh lenge, wo dekh lenge, we have access to various kinds of resources. But when they are stuck, they'll ring your doorbell only. And that is what is the importance of library as a fuel, as a resource that's actually motor. And then the person who is behind all this, the person who is actually knowing that how to access these resources and how to manage them. Now, my chapter in this book has a reflection of my own personal experience, to be very honest with you, and that I was discussing before we started formally with the function. Government of India long back had started with the project of digitization of books. And UGC, CEC also was doing it. And then there was a project called as Digitization of Books, which started, I'm associated with it since 2012, last, I would say, 8 to 9 years now. Now, digitization of books was an attempt to actually develop an e-resource. E-resource for whom? E-resource for school students, because I'll talk about my experience with NCERT. And they started with descending order, 12th first, 11th, 10th, and this is how. And they chose different subjects which were not formal subjects in that area. And what they did, every chapter in the book was divided into a couple of episodes, even number 2, 4, 6, or 8. And then they recorded all these lectures for the benefit of students with 3 cardinal principles: access, equity, and quality. And the CDs were made, the programs were broadcast on a daily basis on channels like Kishore Manch, Vidya, and Chanakya, and all that. And these resources were existing. And I was part of it, delivering, teaching sociology class 12th along with political science, because I have an interdisciplinary interface. So I started doing this. But somewhere what happened over the period of time when we were developing these resources from 2012 to 2015, the recipients of these resources were very few, because students were more focusing upon the classroom learning. That is, the teachers says these resources were converted into DVDs or CDs, and then they were given to respective schools that on smart board, the teacher will run this episode for 15 minutes and the class is usually for 35 minutes. After running the episodes for 15 minutes, they will hold a discussion about it. And one important thing that was added to this was that these resources were enriched. It's not like if I'm talking to you about Berlin Wall, I'm just explaining that this is Berlin Wall, this is city, because in the traditional classroom setting, you have limitation of resources, pictures, figures, and all this. So we attempted to include make it very rich, visually rich, audio rich, videos, content, pictures, photographs. So there was an enrichment of resource that happened. And out of this came the idea of Swayam then. Although, of course, there is a different story to Swayam, but NCERT as a National Resource Coordinator was contacted for Swayam to offer MOOCs on Swayam platform, massive online open courses. And then massive online open courses were also happening. But somewhere the reception, the way the amount of resources were input in the entire process, the output was not corresponding to the amount of resources and the time, energy of developers was going in. Then suddenly there came a blessing in disguise that COVID happened. And suddenly everything came to a standstill. And people were identifying ways how to remain connected to our students, because in COVID, everything shut down, but teaching did not. The way you said, libraries did not close, because people have a continuous appetite for finding information from this side or that side. And since a couple of initial months were fine, because that was end semester examination or summer vacation for schools. But then, the teachers, they never sat quietly, because they were also learning. They were also preparing themselves to launch the next semester or next session for school students. And at that point of time, this invitation for the book also came, and I enjoyed, I actually poured all my personal experience on the paper, that how blended learning is very important in order to keep subject interesting, in order to keep people engaged. Because times are changing. We are dealing with the age, which is a Google age, which is typing and reading first 4 lines, and it thinks that, okay, we have understood the concept. Nobody is ready to take a deep plunge in order to understand, explore the subject matter in greater details. And at that point of time, the platforms such as Swayam and the digitization of book project, suddenly there was a advertisement which said that all these lectures which we have made are now available on Dish TV, Airtel Digital, and all other the Videocon and this and that. And they were saying that eVidya channels 1 to 12 were launched. Although, of course, this is a massive exercise, 1 to 12, so many subjects, so many, difficult to launch within 1 year's time. So they just launched one channel, eVidya, which is now in the process of getting divided into eVidya 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12. So I enjoyed doing so much of digital work, e-learning, online courses, and all these things. Along with that, I was also dealing with 2 MOOCs courses in sociology, which are offered as Sociology 1 and Sociology 3. So my paper is basically focusing upon 2 things. One, the blended learning, that is how blended learning can actually be very significant. And in the second part, I argue both for and against the e-learning. Because as a teacher, I would say that teaching online is like a body which does not have a soul. I talk to 30 students, 40 students, whatever. But I'm actually talking to a screen only, and these days students have a very interesting way of interacting with teacher. They switch off their camera and then will lie down. And this is body. The process is going on. It's like you are a ventilator. Your heart is beating, your lungs are pumping, everything. But that soul of getting connected to my students, where I like to look into their eyes, observe their responses, their behavior, their interest, and then hold a discussion. You cannot do that. So there are flip sides of e-learning, but at the same time, there are other sides of e-learning which was reflecting my experience with it. That look, I have done so much of work for you. I have done so much of research for you. I've gone to libraries. I have accessed resources, and I've brought all those things. The juice of my academic experience I have brought to you in terms of not just talking about Berlin Wall, but showing you it in terms of pictures, visuals, graphics. And I share something personal here. When I was in school, we had a very thick social studies book, and there was a mention of Qutub Minar. And I would show you something. I have a pen and a paper, and the Qutub Minar was drawn like this, a mesh, something like this. I can still, I don't know if it's visible. So Qutub Minar was drawn in black and white, and sometimes I used to wonder, is it a wire mesh covering a tree, or what does it look like, and what its height and all those things. But now teachers are really, the resources are so rich. The books are so vivid. They are so vibrant, full of pictures, images. And even if books are incomplete to a certain extent, which they are not, of course, then there is so much available to students in terms of access to libraries. And I remember we had a small room, 10 by 10, as a library in one of the KVs in remote areas in Maharashtra. And the people would enter silent zones, as Ramesh said, was silent zones. They have become more vibrant. They have become more energetic in nature in terms of, look, I am ready to serve you whatever you want to eat. Okay, but you must have that capacity to digest it, have that appetite to have it. So the teachers, along with the people, those who are managing the resources, the management of resources, are helping, and they're working a lot for student community to develop, come up with new knowledge, which may not be a benchmark, but something which is a new perspective, as sir was saying. There's nothing new in the book, but the perspectives are different. So that was there. So I started appreciating blended learning because of my own efforts, because of the time. And I mentioned that Swayam, MOOCs, and all other initiatives were not a knee-jerk reaction to the current situation, but they were already in existence. Their significance became prominent during the COVID times. And then the entire chapter, as I would say that all of you will get a chance to read it if in case you find it interesting, that education, yes, it remains important, central pillar of life. Current scenario, COVID, how it brought everything to a halt. And then how there was a, outlook, there was a kind of quest for remaining connected to people. And then how the teaching fraternity all across the levels of education, they started finding ways. But even prior to COVID, there were certain initiatives like e-courses, Virtual LAN, National Digital Library, NROER, UGC, MOOCs, Swayam, they were existing. And how they are putting forward for a case of blended learning, which is a combination of online learning as well as existing resources, and how there are advantages and disadvantages for both. As a teacher, as a school, as a student, as a scholar, as a researcher, everybody is having, it's a big matrix where you have in every sphere a set of advantages and disadvantages. But ultimately, to conclude, I would say that something is better than nothing. All of us have floated, all of us have held each other's hands. We have kept the enterprise of learning alive during COVID, and it would continue to do so. All the subjects, maths, science, physics, biochemistry, sociology, political science, psychology, and economics, commerce, they are covered. The NCERT textbooks, which are prescribed by CBSE, which follow the CBSE syllabus, they are existing in the form of episodes, digital episodes. I would request, sir, it's not just about the institutes of higher education where all of you are located and placed. Even sometimes students at undergraduate level, they need some kind of clarification of certain ideas. a very big team of all national resource coordinators for SWAYAM have created a very good repository and source for all these. They've worked day and night in order to make these content very enriched and very engaging, very quality, and a lot of process goes into it. And there are 9 national resource coordinators. For engineering, we have for legal education, for school education, and for MBA. And all these things are for undergraduate course, UGC and CEC. So 9 national resource coordinators are there, and they have their respective levels and subjects covered. So kindly, it's not just about the conventional library resources, but if in case this can also be given to students as orientation program, that these things are also existing which you can make use of it, no matter which NRC you are talking about, national resource coordinator. But if these can also become part of the library data sources, then it would be a good use of the resources which are being invested for the benefit of students.
Thank you, Sheetal. I think Shiva is facing some difficulty in internet connectivity. So let me invite our next panelist, Dr. Aditya Tripathi. He's a professor in Department of Library Science, one of the very reputed university, PHU. So now it's over to Dr. Tripathi. Please share your views and about your chapter as well as about the book.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur, for introducing me to the August gathering. Well, me and my co-author, Dr. Dimple Patel, we have pulled wild thinking what we used to do, and we discuss about librarianship and library science. And this is one of the outcome of our discussions, or many kinds of discussions we carry out about librarianship. And some reflections are there. And these reflections, we have collected our views from our student days till now. We both are professors in library science. And we have, I consider we have almost more than 20 years of experience with the field. And then the change scenario or the period we lived in fact, I consider myself that we are from a generation which which has worked with the old generation of librarians, and now we are working with the future librarians. So in this environment, this whole paper is our kind of a viewpoint we have looked into. And especially what happened is in between this damn pandemic came, and see the world completely change ups and down. Okay. We started thinking quite a lot about do we really need the kind of infrastructure or the shape of life which we were working or we are working with. Okay. So keeping that in mind, then we started analyzing, and we realized we have a lot of strengths with the existing batch of librarians and libraries what we have today. Especially if we talk about the professionals, we have many techno-savvy professionals around. In fact, especially when I consider the professionals or the students who have come post 2000. Okay, they are very good professionals, especially they have very good technical hands, not only with traditional librarianship, but they are good with the computers and ICT tools also. Apart from that, as a librarian, when we talk, we are always into information, we are always into handling the knowledge base and all that. So we are never scared of handling the volume of it, whether it is 2 document or whether it is 2 lakh documents. It is just immaterial to us. Okay. So and especially when the technology is in our hand and we use technology as a tool. Okay. The volume doesn't make any sense when dealing with this kind of environment. One of the, in fact, internet, many times library science professional circles It has discussed that it is a kind of a threat for our profession because people doesn't want to go to library, and they find whatever they want on internet. Okay? Yes, that is true. A lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of knowledge resources or the learning objects, they are available on internet, and let them be there. Okay, they can be our strength. Okay, we can use these our strength. And what we can do at the end of the day, using our good old techniques of information repackaging and all that, and then we can club these meaningful resources for our users and give them for the best utilization of these resources. So these are our strengths. If we say about, we talk about the scenario or the strengths we have in the librarianship as a professional, especially in India, we all know that it is a very closely knitted community. Okay, in fact, we practically know each and everyone in our profession. In fact, many times I tell my students also jocularly, if you walk into a library and if you say that you are a library science student, they are not going to kick you out. And in fact, if means sometimes they may call you and offer you a cup of tea also. They will definitely treat you quite well. So such kind of closely woven community we have in India in librarianship. So we have a great opportunity of collaborating. We have great opportunity of working with people, especially in India, and not only in India but also abroad. Now, with this pandemic period, one of the I must say disaster. In fact, libraries had to close their doors. Okay, that happened practically, literally, it happened everywhere in India. The libraries which used to have the users daily a footfall around 4,000, 5,000, they had to one fine day they had to close down their doors. Okay, for the users. Okay, and what happened is at the end of the day we realized we have now the staff which become non-productive. But again, this you may say that this was a situation where all of a sudden we found that we became non-productive. But we started thinking again that whether we really need to reshape our services. We really need to reshape our library. We really need to reshape how we doing or how we are reaching out to our users, how we are going to serve them. Okay, practically they cannot come to library, they cannot use library freely. Still it is not there, though we are open. Even in BHU we are open. I must say that the things are not as free as it used to be. Okay, so in fact, sometimes I feel that the collection we had, okay, it becomes redundant. Though we have reading material in the library, people are not using it, they are not allowed to use it. Okay, so again it started in our mind that uh, we had to reshape the things. And in this we had a lot of opportunity, we realized. Okay, now we have a lot of free stuff, so why can't we engage our staff in reshaping our library services? Why can't we offer users some kind of services? We have a lot of workspace. In fact, in this technological environment, in this environment, how best we can utilize the technology. Of resources which are available, open source resources are available on internet, not only from the India, from all the parts of world. Okay, we need to put our head down, look into the resources for our students, for our researchers. Okay, and collect them. Maybe to start with, just collect the resources on the website. Okay, give them access. People will be your scholars will be really grateful. In fact, I tell you, being teacher, in fact, when we used to collect the resources for our students, okay, and then when we are giving them, those resources, students used to be so happy. Okay. And can we do this in library? I do not know how many libraries in India they took such kind of initiative to club these resources for the students. Okay. In fact, normal course of online teaching, it was the teacher's job to collect the resources, create the lectures, and give to the student. Okay. So what happens is, in this environment, somewhere other way, library became a kind of a sideline organization in the whole organization. Okay. In fact, sometimes jocularly I say that in the pandemic period, what we did is only webinar. Okay. If you ask libraries what you did in pandemic period, sir, we did some half a dozen webinar, we did some 1 dozen webinar, and that's it. It's not that I'm criticizing the thing, whatever happened and all that. What happened probably, I believe that we were in an environment, we just found that what to do now. I am there in the organization. Okay. So proving worth was a big challenge. Okay. So still in pandemic period, dependency to physical resources, it is reduced now. Still, user, if he comes to library, he is not as free as I told you he used to be. Okay? If you give a resource online on the mobile phone or on his desktop, much more happy. If you tell the person, okay, so and so person in this university or in this organization would guide you on this subject, he would be more happy. With this kind of our maybe I must say that it's our wild thinking. We thought that we again need to go back to our librarianship. We have to serve the user, but probably it may not be that we have to go with the physical collection of the library. Probably we need to come as the listener between the resources and the users. We need to put users to the resources. It could be online, it could be on any platform. And but again, you have to stay back with your basics of 5 laws of library science or rules of librarianship and all that. Environment has changed. Okay. Though it would be more IT based, or it would be more virtual and all that, but still the basics are same. We need to work with the basics, and with this mindset, we have attempted organizing our thoughts in the paper. Okay. I hope the readers, they may, when they read, they would enjoy it, and any feedbacks means reader would be highly appreciated. Thank you, Shiva.
Thank you, Aditya. Now I request Dr. Shantanu Ganguly, Chief Librarian, AIIMS.
Thank you, Shiva. First of all, I must congratulate Shiva and Dr. P.K. Jain for bringing out this interesting book. And I'm equally excited after listening to Dr. Sheetal Sharma. She is a user and talking positive about the librarianship. Thank you, Dr. Sheetal. And Dr. Tara, I think I now remember that we met during the Indonesia program. And I was explaining you regarding the Tara, what does it mean in our Hindi language. And I remember, and thank you, Dr. Goswami, also taking a cue from there. See, I think my paper came out as a matter of chance. Well, I was lying in the bed in the month of September, affected with COVID-19. In fact, my entire family was affected with COVID-19 when I had to write this paper. And thanks to Shiva for, really instigating me from all square to, write this paper and putting together everything at one particular place. So there is nothing much in my paper. It is actually in a paper in a 20, chapter number 20. But what is most important thing is that I think in my previous organization, correctly, I'm the Chief Librarian of All India Institute of Medical Sciences. But before that, I was with Terry as a fellow of the Knowledge Management Division, where basically how this entire knowledge management played a very important role during this new normal. Basically, we are talking about a new normal concept and all. So I would say rather that entire your COVID-19 boon or a bane that we have to equate. Actually, we in our TERI, it was both. I'll tell you why. There was a reason behind it. On one hand, when the COVID-19 struck the entire, or entire country, entire world, what of the two more important divisions came together? One was on that's our ICT department, IT department. They came together and set management divisions. Up to a certain level, we used to be considered as a support service. So we could prove our existence when this COVID-19 came into the picture. And we said, and actually many people in TERI at that time told us that we became their savior for their, for accomplishing those projects. In fact, we created chapter number 20. You will see that there was a total digital transformation has taken place in the entire TERI. Starting from revamping the entire project management system into that. The knowledge management system became a central nervous system of the entire organization, and how the knowledge management system got integrated with the project management system which we have, and how it started meeting the targets of each and every project, helping the researchers to accomplish those projects. That is how it played a very, very important role in the entire thing. I'll just take one particular example because there were many of them were there. One particular example I want to highlight, which has played a very important role in this new normal COVID-19. In our knowledge management system, we had a section called learning experience. In fact, Dr. Goswami, but I'll tell you, in the real sense, we have done that in learning analytics, where it was on learning experience. For every project, we had to capture the learning experience of the different researchers who has accomplished the project. Not a single user, so not a single researcher ready to give you the, his learning experience about the project. Jab bhi pucho, I don't have time. When we were doing it in physical. So we measured a target and we were unable to meet the targets. But during COVID-19, everybody was present. Everybody was present because you can call him anytime, anywhere. You can fix up, you can send out a, we have been doing this MS Office, this Microsoft team we were using. So we made certain provisions there. And even on Saturdays and Sundays, I could reach out to my researcher anytime to capture his vital time and his discussion on that. Slowly, that entire repository of learning experience started building up, which was earlier, it was impossible for me to get a time from my researcher. So this was one of the important area where we gained a lot in that. And the another area is there are several areas where digitization was not penetrated. In fact, we were talking so much about digital transformation. In many cases, we kept it aside because we said we will do it later on. So it was, lagging behind and all. But what happened during this COVID-19 period, suddenly there was a demand for online resources. Many of the resources which have not been digitized, many of the projects, many of the research materials, research data which were not digitized, they came up in a very big way, and we had to put it in some kind of a digital format. There was an entire thing was there, and it was uploaded in the knowledge management system. Last but not the least, I will not take much time. We will enjoy, after seeing the paper, you will see one of the important component is that if you ask any researcher, he will say, I'm engaged in 3-4 projects, so I don't have time to take the 5th one. The classical part is that in TERI, what my IT, along with my IT division, we have created what is called as engagement model. We could find out which person through our digital technology, which person how much engaged from which time to which time on what particular project. So we could actually calculate the SLA, which is called as service level assessment of each and every person, and accordingly he could be allowed to give more projects, more engagement in the different kind of work. That particular thing came up in a big way. So I think it is in our hands whether it is a boon or a bane that we need to decide. But yes, COVID-19 has shown us a new normal, entirely a new normal it has shown us. Thank you very much, Shiva. Congratulations to you and congratulations, Dr. Jain.
Thank you very much. Now I request Dr. Suresh Shah, librarian, Gulbarga University, Gulbarga. Dr. Suresh.
Very good evening to all of you. I feel very proud to be a part of this virtual launch and a book discussion on transition and transformation in academic libraries and higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me congratulate the chief editors of this qualitative book, Dr. Shiva Kanuja Shukla and Dr. P.K. Jain, who have very meticulously brought out this qualitative book, and they have taken a special care with respect to the grammar, with respect to the plagiarism. And in fact, when I have sent my chapter for this book, so I have experienced so how much importance is being given by as far as bringing this qualitative book for the betterment of our libraries and science community. And I also feel blessed to listen to the inaugural address by Professor Ramesh Gaurji and also the chief guest, Dr. Taru Murai. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in this fascinating time of a change and a promise. My chapter is a fourth chapter, which on the importance of a technology acceptance model for social networks, covering B schools in Karnataka. And here, you see, as I said you, we are all in this fascinating time of a change and a promise. And especially in this corona world, the information and communication technology has been the greatest innovation of mankind in supporting the learning, teaching, and but at the same time, it was also essential for all of us to evaluate the acceptance of such a technology, which is being implemented in the library. So I have concentrated on my particular chapter as to how far the technology is accepted by our user community. So that was the main theme and main focus of my chapter for this particular. I took a basis from Davis, one of the personality, one of the great library science community who has developed the technology acceptance model during 1989. So I have taken that research work as a basis, and then I started working on this technology acceptance model covering the B schools. Basically, it's a survey trying to emphasize how important is the technology for the users and how far this technology has been accepted by our user community. And we have tried to focus upon the 7 parameters for this technology acceptance. See, whenever we implement any technology in the library, maybe a remote access technology or any digitization, so there is a need to evaluate our user community as to whether the users accept the new technology that is being implemented in the library. So for that, see, the focus is on whether the technology which we have used in the library, is it very easy to use? Is it very useful? And whether any attitude also matters, and perceived mobility is another factor to be considered, and what is the viewing experience of user community. whether it has made any positive impact or a negative impact. All these factors have been taken into account, and I touched upon the parameters, especially the perceived mobility, viewing experience, perceived usefulness, and attitude, and the intention of use. I think you can, if you go through the paper, this is more of an research work which we have carried out on B schools in Karnataka. We are from the Gulbarga University, and this area probably under this COVID-19, the first coronavirus has affected in Gulbarga, the place where I reside, and it was a great challenge. I'm not talking about the institutions of IITs or IIMs. I am coming from the environment wherein we have some 400 plus affiliated colleges. So my research study focus on these colleges and the state university, where we have a limitation of the technology, where we have a limitation of access to the network. And under such cases, how far the technology has been accepted by user community, that has been the focus of my chapter, which has been contributed in this highly qualitative edited book. And I'm very eagerly looking for going through the scholarly articles contributed by other eminent professionals in this book. And I'm sure that this book will provide new dimensions in the annals of library and information science, and it would be widely utilized and used by our research scholars, students, and faculty members of library information science and in other disciplines also. So with this, I thank for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this particular launching session. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Al Nordin to share his views with all of us. Thank you, sir. Dr. Al Nordin.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva, and also to the committee. I'm trying to highlight three main issues that I found in my writing, in my research. But before come to the 3 points, I would like to tell you about the process. At that times, in Indonesia, firstly announced officially from the president, from my president, in March 19, and then start from the official announcement about the COVID-19, almost all the places locked down, shut down. So in physical ways, very, very important, and it is a very frightening situation at that time, from March to about 2 to 3 months after that. Then the situation become a little bit controlled, and then and at that times I was later from Dr. P.K. Jain. That there is I think it is a good offer to be able to join, to contribute to the writing book chapter. And then so I, at the time, the first time, the first time the offer came to me, then I'm still thinking that's what I have to do, because we still in the COVID situation. And then try to find what topic that I can research and I can get, because it is very still difficult to be moving anyway, and also the online communication still learn we have to learn much. Yeah, and then I discuss my colleagues and also my students. To write a certain topic and then come to the conclusion that we have to be research something that we close to be, yeah, we close to it. And then the my co-author is one of the from the organization that we are going to research, yeah, as I in the title, Muhammadiyah, yeah. What is not Muhammadiyah? I mean the organization is Muhammadiyah University Libraries, and then in this association, it is one of the biggest religious association. It has more than it has 2020. It has 162 universities, and then so we agree that we are going to research from that university, and so we try to, because this scatter distributed in many islands or in almost every island in Indonesia. So we agreed to research from 4 islands and 6 university libraries from eastern eastern part of Indonesia and part of Indonesia. Yeah, within 2 months we succeeded to interview 26 informants to get what we are offer in this paper, information services in the library during the COVID-19 pandemic times. So in that situation, we try to be working hard in order to achieve the targets what the committee hope us to do. I mean we have to submit as required times. Then we found 3 main issue in the research. First, what is main issue is a policy of the library service in the university libraries in 6 university libraries, and the second one is a strategic programs, yeah, planned and implemented in the library, and the big issue, in the last big issue is leadership character owned by the librarians and also the head, yeah, the head of the librarians. Okay, back to the first policy, because the library cannot directly do what they are going to do, so they need to build a certain policy in order to involve librarian and also user, because the library does not have a sort of policy, then they will be many complaints, not all but also from especially from user, yeah, because the users, the library user live in many different places, yeah, not only from the city, but mostly live in the villages that was very difficult to get a network. So that way, first policy built by libraries, the use of social media. Before that, social media is not something very important in the library management, but after the formulation of the social media use, then the librarians try to be working hard, delivering their services through social media, even though you know that media cannot be giving maximum what is services, but at least the librarian can maintain their connectivity or their connection with the users, and the user can ask whenever they can whenever they are going to find something to their libraries. And since that in the 6 libraries I researched, we found that almost all kinds of social media used formally in order to serve their user. And the second policy also used at that time is technology using library education. But before the COVID, you know, all of them were what is conventional physically activity. But since that what is the COVID-19, the library education and also training for literacy, all using virtual media like Zoom or Google Meet, etc. And the third, what is new policy also is at that time, because the library at that time were locked down, were closed, but that time around 3 to 4 months, then the library open what is conventional services, but still what is pay attention the health protocol. And since that time also there are a lot of slogans used in terms of the health protocols, washing hand, and also maintain the what is physical distancing. But this is the main. But there are a lot of slogans following the what is the conventional. What is the second point is what is strategic program that follow all the policy. And the last one is the leadership character. And we found that there are some very important characters that the leaders of the library should have in order to be able to implement the policy and the programs as written in the policy books. First is one of them is charisma through soft communication. Charisma meaning that the leaders should be having what is a powerful communication in order to make sure, in order to persuade the librarians and also especially the user, because many users were delivering their complaints to the situation. The main point in the paper that I submitted. Yeah. So I think that's all from me, Dr. Shiva.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Now I request Dr. Neelam Thapa from HS Kaur Vishwavidyalaya, Sagar, to share her views.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Shiva and Dr. Jain for giving me this opportunity, for helping me to be here for this book launch and sharing my views. Before I begin, I would like to say, like when Dr. Shiva shared this idea with me for this kind of a book, the first thought that came to me was, what a wonderful idea this was. Because, we all have been going through so many challenges in this past 1 year. And we have had to think and rethink, find solutions and transform. So I think what could be better than documenting the experiences, the challenges, the initiatives taken by the library professionals, and the suggestions that have come through from this kind of a study all over India, and document book that can be used by all of us to understand the present scenario as well as what we are going to face in near future. Coming to my study, I have been interested in information literacy, and basically information literacy programs being conducted by academic institutions, higher education institutions. And my findings show that there are many good things and some things that we need to be concerned about. Most of the lab, I have tried to cover select central universities and IITs and IIM libraries. And I found that most of them do conduct information literacy programs. But then the information literacy programs are more focused towards the research scholars, more customized towards the research scholars. For the rest of the students, even though there is a large number of undergraduate and postgraduate students, the kind of exam that is usually conducted is a one-shot program of 2-3 hours in the beginning of the session. And what we really need to think is, does this really suffice the need of the students? Another thing that I came across was many of the libraries, almost 75% of the libraries, do not assess the user needs before conducting the information literacy programs. And a large number of not evaluate the effectiveness of the information literacy program after conducting the information literacy program. 2 from the 26 that I could get the response from were able to incorporate it into the curriculum. So we really don't know how many are really utilizing, attending these information literacy programs. Looking a little deeper, another fact that came, many of the libraries were not following any information literacy standards or models. And looking at the programs that were being covered, the topics that were being covered, I found that library literacy and the kind of resources we have, and maybe the use of the catalog was being addressed to a large extent. But there are many other aspects that we need to focus on, rather, like research literacy, common media literacy, social literacy, visual literacy, numerical literacy. They were hardly being focused on. But on the other hand, I also feel there are certain issues relating to this information literacy programs. First and foremost, I think we have to also on our undergraduate students who are not that much aware about the use of the resources or how to address to their problem. And now that everybody is going online and we are not coming face to face. And the study also shows that most of the libraries conduct their information literacy programs face to face. Our responsibility increases. So maybe these are some of the issues that need to be handled, focused on. What happens when we all go online? So how information literacy programs are to be given then. And not much focus was seen on providing tutorials online and recorded lectures or something like that we need to focus. Well, the time is running short, so this is all about my paper, which is a research paper which focuses on these kind of things, and I think it is a matter of concern for all of us. But thank you very much, Dr. Shiva.
Now I request Dr. P.K. Jain, editor of the book, to say a few words to share his views.
Thank you, Dr. Shiva. Dear Professor Ramesh Gaud, Dean and Head, Klanidin Division, IGNCA, Ms. Tara More Group, President SLA USA, Dr. P.R. Goswami, Dr. Nudin Lagu, Professor Aditya Tripathi, Dr. Sheetal Sharma, Dr. Santanu Ganguly, Dr. Suresh Jange, Dr. Neelam Tapa, and all participants presented here. Good afternoon, everyone. It is our pleasure to meet all of you online. I would like to thank all of you for participating in the book launch and discussion. As you know, that this book is a result of hard work done by all the authors during the lockdown due to COVID-19. The edited volumes and papers written by the academicians and allied professionals on various issues related to global higher education system, human relations as well as computer and internet mediated services offered in academic libraries during the pandemic scenario. The title of my chapter is Availability of Research Database in Academic Libraries in India, Issues for Discussion. This chapter describes about the academic libraries or academic librarianship in their day-to-day to identify libraries whose collections are confined to a group of discipline. These libraries have the students who are users of different research-oriented information sources, micro-literature or primary sources in the form of periodicals, research project reports, conference proceedings, annual reviews, manuals, methodological tools, patents, standards, statistical compendia, etc. from their core collection. Most of these libraries have institutional repositories to store and disseminate their research work. This paper is aimed to identify some academic libraries in the different sectors like art, science, technology, agriculture, medicine, social science, and law, etc. The book has 37 chapters on 5 base sub-themes. The sub-themes are embedded librarianship in academic libraries and higher education after COVID-19, ethnological innovation and academic libraries, information literacy and e-learning in higher education, library and information services in academic libraries. The foreword of the book was written by Professor Ramesh Gaud. The book chapter written by well-known LIS professionals. Most of them are here, and some others are Professor M.P. Singh, Professor Silpi Verma, Professor Jain Guptam, Dr. Dinesh Kumar, Dr. Neeraj Chaurasia, Dr. Mahesh Chand, Dr. Somesh Vishkarma, Dr. Parveen Babbar, etc. We are heartily thankful to all authors who have contributed their chapters for this book. We are thankful to Professor Ramesh Gaud, Dean and Head IGNCA, who has written such a nice foreword of this book and has also organized and discussion. We are thankful to Tara Moregro, President SLA, to write prologue of this book and also spare time and expected to be a chief guest for this book launch. I also thank to my co-editor, Dr. Shiva Kanodia, Deputy Librarian JNU, for her contribution and efforts. I am also thankful to Ms. Catherine, President-elect SLA, for writing the epilogue of this book. Last but not least, I am thankful to all authors and participants, allies, professionals, and students will found this book useful. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Ramesh Gaud, sir, to bless us with his concluding remarks.
So I think transition and transformation are very much interrelated. Transition is always there. It is inevitable. And transformation, when transition is there, you have to transform according to the needs of the society, the clientele you are serving for them. So in this context, I think this book is very, very important, and all the authors I've been listening, many of you, and having an Dr. Goswami, a old horse, and always in this age, I really appreciate his zeal and enthusiasm in contributing. Many of our young colleagues must learn from Dr. Goswami how to contribute to the profession. And whenever he writes, he is very thorough and we are very serious about writing. That's something I really great admirer of Dr. Goswami's writing. Basically, when Aditya was talking about different gaps, I think these gaps need to be filled up because I still feel our library science schools and libraries are not well connected. One hand doesn't know what other hand is doing. In this context, I think it is very, very important. The Ranganathan's philosophy that library science teachers should go to the libraries and librarians should go to the library science schools. So to understand role of each other and to also update themselves in the current context of needs, because library science teacher can understand how the theories are being taught are important in current librarianship and how librarians can learn many things about theoretic. So in this context, like we have to really, particularly I'm talking about India. One thing I want to say with very proud in front of all of you, I have been speaking in the entire world every day in different globes, in different zones. I see Indian libraries have done remarkably well during this pandemic. I was just interacting with some of my German counterparts. Even when we talk about our teaching community, I feel very happy that a teacher laptop in schools, they have started learning. They have started teaching with the mobile to our school kids when it was a necessary to adopt the technologies. So I think overall, not just vaccine, but even in education, libraries, and other learning domains, we have done remarkably well, and we have lived up to the expectations of the society, expectations of the teacher. I know several librarians, they have done it is extremely deserve a lot of appreciation, because despite of all close downs and all the restrictions, I have not seen any librarian saying no to that. I also want to remove this mindset that only webinars have been organized by the libraries during this period. Webinars are visible because you are seeing it on Facebook and other work done by librarians behind the scene in the back doors and serving their clientele, because that is not being put on the Facebook. That is in their independent organizations. So it is something which we need to understand, that we are in a society which is changing very fast. Users are very changing fast. Users are very technology savvy, and so libraries have to be developed according to that. And I still remember formation work in JNU. Like when I see these comments from Professor Sapori, that Ramesh, what you did, I never expected that it can be done in JNU. So those kind of compliments and remarks, when you do some good transformation, is worth replicating, and I'm sure many of you are already doing such great work, and this book may be a kind of guide to further understand the new nuances of the technology, and also nitty-gritty of various kind of expectations of the users as well as library community, how far we are going in this direction. So it's a digital world, and we have to, because I just give you one example. Recently, one of the upcoming triple IT, they contacted me. They say that we want to create a digital library only. We don't want a totally create a digital library. So now things are changing, because when students, faculty, they are very well versed with the online resources, online tools. So even hybrid things are changing. Now the new things are coming up, which are more technology oriented, more based on digital services. In this context, I think we have to prepare, and our library science teachers have to update themselves. We also need to understand that whatever gaps are there, we need to, and I'm sure these discussions which are being broadcasted live on Facebook will also be available on our YouTube channel at IGNCA YouTube channel for further viewing. And with this, Dr. Jain has already thanked you all. I would like to join him first, thanking Ms. Tara Amure-Grove for coming so early in the morning and blessing us in this program. And sharing her views on this very important topic. Dr. Goswami, a very close colleague. We have been working together on several projects, and we are so grateful to you, Dr. Goswami. Dr. Santanu Ganguly, a very dynamic librarian, always eager to do something new. Dr. Sheetal Sharma, you are. I really admire the way you put up the things in your. I think that can be a very starting learning point for many of libraries, that what new libraries researchers are looking for. So in your brief comments, you put up the user expectations, researcher expectations to the library. Sure, my library colleagues have taken note of your views, and they will definitely try to replicate those views. I'm grateful to Neelam, Dr. Al Noruddin from Indonesia, a lovely country. We have been working very closely in various cultural heritage projects with Indonesia, and it's nice to see you. And of course, both the editors, when they offered me a copy of the book, immediately I just offered, let's have a discussion, because the names of the authors were quite catchy, and the title as well as some of the contents I glanced through. I thought it should reach out to the larger audience, and because this program of ours is to connect authors, their works, to the people, to the students, to the practitioners. So I think your work, Dr. Jain and Dr. Shiva, whatever you have done, will reach out to large number of people, and I wish you all the very best. And Dr. Sheetal, I still miss JNU, the wonderful people, the intellectual minds. Now, different set of minds, but that 7 years of my stay at JNU was the wonderful time. I always cherish, and I look forward to meeting you sometime personally, then virtually.
Yes.
So with these words, I thank you all, and I think Shiva, we can close the program, and we can thank everybody. Thank you very much.